gentlemen, can I ask everybody to take their seats? We're about to start. Okay, I think everybody is seated, so let us start. Excellencies, distinguished representatives from ministries of education, distinguished delegates and guests, colleagues and friends, good morning and welcome to this special event on transforming education now and for the future we want, TES National Follow-up Actions to move forward to the achievements of SDG 4, which is organized as an associated event of the 10th Asia-Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development. It is co-organized by UNESCO Bangkok and UNICEF EAPRO and ROSA under the umbrella of the LE 2030 Plus networking group, which is the regional coordination mechanism of SDG 4 of the region. And it's now my pleasure to give the floor to Mr. Shigeru Aoyagi, who is the director of the UNESCO Asia-Pacific Regional Office for Education, and who will now join us online to give the opening remarks. Mr. Aoyagi, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Margaret. Honorable ministers, distinguished government representatives, distinguished representatives from our sister UN agencies, civil society organizations, universities, young people, ladies and gentlemen, very, very good morning from Bangkok. On behalf of the Learning Education 2030 Plus Networking Group, which is the regional coordination mechanism for SDG 4 in Asia and the Pacific, and our co-chairs, UNESCO Asia Pacific Regional Bureau for Education, and the two UNICEF regional offices for East Asia and the Pacific and South Asia, both co-organizers of this special event, I would like to express my warmest welcome to all of you. It is an honor and a pleasure to join you at this special event today on transforming education now and for the future we want, TES National Follow-up Actions, organized as an associated event of the 10th Asia-Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development. I wish to extend my sincere appreciation to ESCAP for providing this platform for the region to share and learn from one another. Ladies and gentlemen, the year 2022, last year, which was marked by an extraordinary mobilization for education worldwide that resulted in global discussions on a new vision for education, and most importantly, 135 countries' national commitments towards transforming education, their education systems worldwide, out of which 29 are from our region. In our region, a key strategic moment towards transforming education was the Asia-Pacific Regional Education Ministers Conference held last June in Bangkok, which informed the Global Peace Summit in Paris later that same month, as well as the the Transforming Education Summit in New York. Now is the time when our commitments must be turned into action. Indeed, turning these new visions into a reality we can all be proud of depends on all countries delivering on their stated commitments with the support of the international community. Today's special event is therefore not only timely, but an invaluable opportunity for UN member states to share what priority actions have been taken, what progress have been made, and what bottlenecks have been encountered, with our overall aim to build more equitable, inclusive, and resilient education system. At today's special event, participating countries will present on 3 priority areas, namely 1, transformation of teaching and learning and the content of education. 2, climate change education and making education systems more climate resilient. And 3, digital learning and transformation. It is hoped that today's discussions will foster increased collaboration, enhance cross-sectoral engagement, and synergize our efforts around transforming education at the country level. I thank you all for your participation and for your continued efforts to together support countries throughout Asia and the Pacific in making the transformation of education a reality. I wish you a fruitful and insightful special event today. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Aoyagi. And I would like to invite all of you to listen to 2 video presentations, which are actually the welcome remarks of first Mrs. Stefania Giannini, who is the Assistant Director General of Education of UNESCO, followed by welcome remarks of Mr. Robert Jenkins, who is the Global Director of Education and Adolescent Development of UNICEF. So let's listen to the videos.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I would very much have liked to join you today for this special event on how to accelerate the national education efforts in the region, in the Asia-Pacific region, in the follow-up to the Transforming Education Summit last September. Today, we all know more than ever the challenges faced by the international community highlight the necessity to place education at the heart of the Sustainable Development Agenda. Education is the best investment a country can make to transform, to transition to sustainable economies, and to build societies grounded in human dignity and social justice. But as we all know, unfortunately, education is in crisis. The summit was very much fruitful in order also to make the point about the figures we know. Globally, 244 million children and youth are still out of school, of which more than 130 million live in Asia and the Pacific. And those who are at school, 6 out of 10 children cannot read and understand a very simple text, age 10. Almost 70 million teachers need to be recruited globally if you want to fill the gap, if you want really to achieve SDG 4 in the next few years we still have from now to 2030. Well, I see this year as a crucial year to really demonstrate that from commitments we can move to action. As you all know, last year we had some 133 countries committed to transform education. And this was the result of a broader global unprecedented consultations, and the high-level steering committee of SDG 4 is now entrusted to follow up to this important unprecedented political capital that we have in our hands. The Transforming Education Summit convened by the Secretary General actually has been a momentum for the education community. And the role we have this year, all of us, the high-level steering committee at global level and all communities and governments at country level, is to move from commitments and statements to action. I wish to recall a few important initiatives that have been launched at global level, but must embedded in the summit and must embedded in the national agenda. It's about greening education that is part of the important essential roadmap to education for sustainable development. And this is about 4 pillars, as you know: greening schools, greening curriculum, greening teachers' capacity and system capacity at national level, and greening communities. It's about digital learning as a common public good, and we are now working on establishing what we called in New York a global gateway to share the best practices and to valorize as much as possible digital learning as a human right and as a common good. And of course, it's very much about teachers, the game changers in the classroom. And now the goal we have this year, the objective we have is to define through the global report that UNESCO is going to publish a new status, a new standards for the teaching profession. These are only a few of the most important priorities we had. But of course, is also very much what UNESCO last year was developing through UNESCO agenda: early childhood global conference, higher education world conference, and of course, adult learning Marrakesh roadmap. So to conclude, this collective mobilization has been truly unprecedented, kicking off a global movement for education with youth in the driving seat. But our bold ambitions cannot be achieved if we continue to rely on education systems that maintain inequalities. And reaching the most marginalized, including children and youth in context of conflicts and crises, must be at the heart of our endeavor. Transforming education is a continuous and collective effort. And our success, our collective success, will depend on our ability, our collective ability to reach beyond the education sector. It's critical that we involve all parts of governments and all parts of societies at global, regional, and country level. At the global level, as already mentioned, the High-Level Steering Committee, hosted by UNESCO and co-chaired by DG Azoulay, together with the President of Sierra Leone, Bayo, has the important task to overcome and to overview this follow-up to the summit. I wish to thank very much the Asia and the Pacific representatives, Bangladesh, China, and CMAO for their leadership in this process. The journey toward the transformation also calls for learning from each other and moving forward together in solidarity. And I think that this event today is an important opportunity to share national experiences of how commitments are already being translated into action. In closing, really, I would like to commend the member states of the Asia-Pacific region on their early and innovative actions taken so far, and assure you, all of you, UNESCO's determination to support your efforts to transform education. I wish you a fruitful discussion, and I thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Robert Jenkins, and I'm the Global Director of Education and Adolescent Development for UNICEF. Thank you very much for this opportunity to provide a few remarks to this important conference on TES follow-up. I really appreciate the areas that have been highlighted for the conference and for TES follow-up. They very much match UNICEF's key priorities, working very closely with UNESCO and other key partners as we advance and the key outcomes of TES Summit and address the global learning crisis. The first area I'd highlight is the focus on learning. While it would seem obvious, it's clear it has not been a focus on many education systems around the world. The need to focus on learning, the need to enable children to acquire foundational learning skills and outcomes and other broader range of outcomes. So I really appreciate the focus on learning outcomes and encourage the conference to continue to deliberate on the best practices to enable progress in this very important area. And I won't repeat, I'm sure what's already been shared, the very worrying data and current status of learning outcomes around the world. Secondly, I do want to also acknowledge the focus on digital learning and the need for transformation. Some amazing innovations and initiatives around the world, including the Learning Passport, but also gateways and other initiatives, working in partnership with many in the public sector and the private sector to advance this very important work. In no means will digital learning solve the learning crisis, digital learning tools, but it indeed will be an enabler, and it shows great progress in many countries. So I do encourage the conference and all of us to continue to work on digital learning initiatives as we move forward. I also appreciate the acknowledgement that marginalized children have been particularly affected by the learning crisis, by the school closures as a result of the pandemic, and were a key focus of the Transforming Education Summit. We all know that marginalized children continue to be left behind, disparities are growing, so I'd also encourage all governments, partners, and others to focus on the barriers that marginalized children face, and let's work together to overcome those barriers. Obviously, those barriers are context specific, and we need to understand the barriers that each and every child faces so that indeed we work together to enable them to realize their full potential. Lastly, financing. It's absolutely at the center of the needed transformation. It was very much highlighted at Transforming Education Summit. Overall amount of funds resources need to increase for education, but also we need to ensure that they're equitably spent and effectively and efficiently used. Congratulations again to the organizers and all of you for your continued commitment to TES follow-up. Count on UNICEF's full support.
Thank you very much. Now, before we start the session, I would like to start by making a few housekeeping announcements. First of all, the meeting is being recorded and photos will be taken. Also, you've seen probably in front of you, there is a QR code. So you can scan the concept note and the provisional agenda and the presentation abstracts from that code. For online participants, please make sure that you rename yourself using first name, last name, country, organization. And questions are welcome throughout the meeting via the Zoom chat box. Please be very clear and concise when you put questions, and you can also use the raise hand to make interventions during the Q&A sessions. Now, please allow me to just say a few words to set the scene and present you with the objectives and the agenda of the event. So as we've heard in the opening statements, the extraordinary mobilization of education that happened last year can only come to its full success if it is translated into action. So this is actually what we're here for today, to listen to countries, how they have actually started to operationalize their commitments and to showcase their innovations and to learn from each other. And this is what this special event provides the platform to. And we really hope that we will not only learn from each other during this event, but also strengthen South-South collaboration. Now let me provide you with a very quick overview of the agenda, which will be projected in a second, of this event. So it is organized in two parts. It's a little bit small, but I hope you can still see it. So in the first part, we'll be looking at creating more inclusive, equitable, and resilient education systems. And here we have the pleasure to listen to presentations from Bangladesh, the Philippines, Nepal, and Thailand. And here topics such as secondary education, curricular reform, basic education reform, contextualizing of tests at the local level and corresponding to local needs, and ensuring equitable and innovative education and financing will be presented. That will be then followed by a Q&A session. The second part will take a deeper dive in the three topics that were mentioned already before. On the one hand, transforming teaching and learning, really looking at content. The second topic is digital learning and transformation. And the third, very importantly, climate change education and making education systems more climate resilient. Here we will listen to presentations from Indonesia and Cambodia, looking at curriculum reforms and putting a spotlight on foundational learning, followed by China, the Republic of Korea and Thailand on transforming education with a focus on digital transformation, and finally from Laos PDR on building climate resilient education systems. So we hope that all of these presentations and the ensuing discussions will be fruitful and of interest to you. It is now my great pleasure to give the floor to Dr. Ethel Agnes Pascua Venezuela, who is the director of the Southeast Asian Ministers of Education Organization Secretariat, CMEO, to moderate the first part of the session. Dr. Ethel, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Margaret. And again, a warm welcome to all of you in this Transforming Education Now and for the Future We Want, a TES National Follow-up Actions. We are here to move forward the commitments, the common agenda. As stated by ADG Giannini, we have a lot of challenges and educational issues to address, combined with the current crisis that we are facing in education, in our economy, and even health, and we're still recovering from those. We're lucky to listen to 4 speakers, and they are actually giving us a very good change that's happening in their country, recommendations on how to invest in curriculum, teacher professional development, and many more, contextualizing the agreements in the Transforming Education Summit, which was adopted in New York and in Paris for further deliberation. CMEO, together with China and Bangladesh, are leading the high-level steering committee along with UNESCO, UNICEF, and other bodies. And for the Asia-Pacific region, the co-conveners are UNICEF and UNESCO, and we work, I think every month we meet, and we're happy to present some of the thoughts we have on transforming education. To be started by Honorable Dr. Dipu Moni from Bangladesh. She is the Minister of Education from the Ministry of Education, Bangladesh. We will learn from her transformation through learning. How to learn? That's always our question now. Do we need to change the curriculum? Do we need a new pedagogy? What about assessment? So she will share her journey as she rolled out the new national curriculum at the secondary level of education. She will share the needs and demands of the 21st century learning, commitments to address the needs for Industry 4.0, her vision, the government's vision and development plan. And of course, not to neglect our climate change issues and disaster management. We will learn about experiential learning, interdisciplinary approach, and formative assessments that they have been doing and adopting. So without further ado, I would like to welcome warmly Your Excellency, Dr. Dipu Moni from Bangladesh. Ma'am, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Respected moderator, distinguished speakers of the session, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you all from Bangladesh. It is my pleasure to be connected with you virtually in this special event organized as part of the 10th Asia Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development. On behalf of the Ministry of Education, Bangladesh, and SDG 4 High-Level Steering Committee, Asia Pacific region, I would like to express my thanks and gratitude for inviting me to present on how Bangladesh is translating the commitment of educational transformation through implementing the new curriculum in Bangladesh. I hope that the platform will give member states an opportunity to share and learn from each other's good practices and innovations for transforming education. We know educational transformation is a continuous process and it requires collective efforts. A whole of society and whole of government approach, including the active engagement of all the stakeholders, can institutionalize the transformation process effectively. Ladies and gentlemen, we, the international education community, are becoming more aware of the concept of educational transformation now than we did before. The UN organized Transforming Education Summit in last September played a pivotal role to make the world community rethink about education and to mobilize action to transform education systems, including increasing equity in education and spending towards achieving Sustainable Development Goal 4 on quality education for all. Next slide, please. Educational transformation is necessary to help us shape peaceful, just, and sustainable futures. Transforming education is not an idea to be executed overnight. Rather, it is a continuous and live process. Priority areas of educational transformation in Bangladesh can be captured through the actions taken for renewing the present curriculum in primary and secondary level of education. The curriculum rolled out in 2023 after 1 year of piloting, and it will be fully implemented by 2026. We need an education system that is flexible, capable of adapting to a rapidly changing environment and relevant to emerging socio-economic needs. So the new national curriculum framework is addressing the needs and demands of the 21st century, the fourth industrial revolution, our Vision 2041, and disaster and climate change issues. We want our children to be visionary, sensitive, resilient, humane, and competent world citizens with knowledge, skills, and a positive vision so that they can become a change agent. To ensure this transformation, experiential learning, interdisciplinary approach, and formative assessment have been adopted as key pedagogical and assessment approaches. You will agree that thinking out of the box, accepting and coping with changes, especially when it is questioning your traditional practices and thought processes, are always challenging. Yet, the tremendous positive response from the learners, teachers, and education community on this educational transformation is quite encouraging and giving the message to face these challenges. I cannot agree more that teachers are at the heart of transformation. While traveling all over the country to observe the implementation of the new curriculum, I found that transformative thinking and practice of a teacher or an education manager can significantly change the scenario of a classroom as well as the school premise. I must appreciate our teachers who are working hard to implement the new curriculum. So teachers training and capacity building is one of the priority actions in the transformation process. I should also mention that digital transformation has been prioritized in our policies and actions. Our priority actions also include taking initiatives for implementing the national statement of commitment in the TES. We already had a national sharing event involving the stakeholders on TES follow-up actions. Formation of a high-level technical committee to translate our commitment into action is under process. We are also looking forward to establish synergies between TES follow-up actions and the new GPE partnership. Next slide, please. I would like to mention that the new curriculum is a paradigm shift in the history of Bangladesh education system. The innovative practices in the field of education, which include competency-based curriculum, learner-centered teaching learning approach, experiential learning, and formative assessment are addressed in the present curriculum. The new curriculum has emphasized on digital literacy and digital citizenship, which becomes a mandatory subject for all. Developing digital education ecosystem that include education management, digital pedagogy and learning, assessment, teachers training, monitoring and mentoring, etc., are in the plan to gradually move towards that goal. But there will be a strong focus on equity so that this transformation does not affect the most marginalized children. The sexual reproductive health issues, nutrition, and psychosocial counseling are also addressed under the new curriculum. I believe that these innovative practices will pave the way for the desired transformation. Next slide, please. Bangladesh is considered a champion for the global digital transformation initiative launched at the TES. all learners can equip themselves with the knowledge, skills, attitudes, and values required to participate in pro-people development of the nation with pro-market productivity while competing and cooperating within the global community. With a public teachers portal with more than 5 million member teachers and a student portal under Digital Bangladesh Initiative, Bangladesh is well ahead of creating the foundation of digital education ecosystem. This has been strengthened after COVID. Progress has been made in teachers' preparedness and capacity development. More than 450,000 secondary teachers are receiving in-depth training by subject on new curriculum. We are preparing for SDG 4 midterm review and hope that the report will summarize the progress made and challenges encountered. Next slide, please. Developing the pedagogical and assessment framework, lack of teachers and community preparedness to implement the new curriculum and other transforming aspects, capacity building and training of a huge teaching workforce, more than 1 million, data and evidence on education transformation, effective partnership and coordination mechanisms are our major challenges. Last but not the least, adequate financing and efficient use of the resources are the bottlenecks in the transformation process. Next slide, please. Regarding financing, I should mention that the budget allocation for education in proportion to GDP will be increasing as committed in the 8th five-year plan. In terms of equity and efficiency, we are strengthening the annual development program to ensure timely disbursement and quality and equitable spending of the resources, enhancing capacities in the analyses and simulation of costs and financing. I must emphasize in this forum that international cooperation is crucial for translating national commitment into action. Living up to the fiscal commitments of development partners is also very important. However, we are exploring the scopes for global financing partnership in education sector so that we can move towards the achievement of SDG 4. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your patient hearing. Thank you all. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu, may Bangladesh live forever.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Indeed, it's our honor and privilege to listen to the reform that you've been undertaking in your country. It's a good model addressing the bottlenecks on pedagogical as well as assessment frameworks, lack of teachers. It's a common problem in many countries. And of course, the need for international cooperation. The more we need partners when we have such a huge problem and issues to address. And thank you very much for your leadership as well in high-level steering committee. Now, for our audience online and here, please jot down your questions. In case we have more time, we can call on you to ask questions. And let me now go to the next speaker. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Now, I would like to proceed to calling our Assistant Secretary of the Department of Education, Ms. Alma Rubio Torrio. She will discuss the current reform agenda of the Philippines, which we call in our language as Matatag. Bansang Makabata, Batang Makabansa. She will explain what that means. And the DepEd recently welcomed our new Minister for Education, is also our Vice President of the Philippines, Her Excellency Sara Zimmerman Duterte. This is her program, the Basic Education Agenda, and we would like to know the direction that the Department of Education is taking in terms of transforming education. With this new follow-up action, they have already done consultation meetings, and they have made commitments to make education more relevant, more resilient, and to accelerate the delivery of quality basic education. So, without further ado, I would like to call on Ma'am Alma Rubio Torrio, Department of Education, the Philippines. Ma'am, the floor is yours.
Thank you to our moderators, our excellencies, distinguished guests, fellow presenters, ladies and gentlemen, everyone, good morning. Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. I am very happy to join this event, and for this, please allow me to thank our organizers for inviting and allowing us to share the efforts that our Philippine educational system is doing to improve access, equity, equality, resiliency in our education system. Let me start that by saying that our Department of Education has been beset also with some challenges and concerns, as revealed in the results of our national as well as our international large-scale assessments. And this has been exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic, which necessitated suddenly for the shift of in-person classes to various learning delivery modalities. And how is DepEd, or the Department of Education, is addressing the current yet lingering challenges in basic education? Recognizing that solutions, interventions cannot happen overnight, nor can it be done by the Department of Education alone. And so our Vice President, and at the same time, the Secretary of the Department of Education, Madam Zara Zay Duterte, on January 30, 2023, launched the Matatag Education Agenda. And this calls for a national commitment and the sustained effort of all sectors of the society. The Matatag Agenda is the new direction of the agency and the stakeholders in resolving the basic education challenges. Matatag is a Filipino term for resilience. And the Matatag Agenda embodies the current administration's resolve to confront head-on the current challenges of the basic education sector in facing particularly the learning crisis in the country. And the ideas and aspirations of the Matatag Agenda will be realized through the implementation of policies, programs, and interventions in the 4 Agenda. The 4 Agenda are as follows. Dama, which means that we have to make the curriculum relevant to produce job-ready, active, and responsible citizens. The next letters, which is the Ta, is to take steps to accelerate the delivery of basic education services and provision of facilities. And the other Ta means to take good care of learners by promoting learner well-being, inclusive education, and positive learning environment. And the last letter, which is the G, means to give support for teachers to teach better. So what is the implementation strategy for our Matatag Education Agenda? Each functional strand in the central office is the main office of the Department of Education, shall be assigned to deliver specific commitments. We have various functional strands in the central office, and this includes my strand, the curriculum and teaching strand. We also have the finance strand, administration strands, the procurement strand, and other strands. My next discussion will concentrate on what my strand, the curriculum and teaching strand, is doing to address the Matatag Education Agenda. First, let me start with the mandate of the curriculum and teaching strand. The curriculum and teaching strand is the strand which focuses on the delivery of relevant, responsive, and inclusive basic education program. And so we focus on research-based curriculum supported by appropriate learning delivery and assessment models, and with the provision of quality learning resources. So what is the curriculum strand doing to align with the Matatag education agenda? For the first agendum, which is to make the curriculum relevant, we are on the process of revising the K-12 curriculum to make it more responsive to develop lifelong learners who are imbued with 21st century skills, discipline, and patriotism. We would like to reduce, as we review the existing curriculum, we will reduce the number of learning areas in K-3 from 7 learning areas to 5 learning areas that will focus on foundational skills in literacy and numeracy. And relative to this, we will organize a dedicated programs to address the National Reading Program, the National Mathematics Program, and the National Science Program. Our new curriculum will be embedded with a national cultural program. And in addition to this, we will have a separate learning area known as the Good Manners and Right Conduct learning area for our K-6 and the values education for our K-7 to K-10. For the next agendum, which is to take steps to accelerate the delivery of basic education services and provision of facilities, our curriculum and teaching strand is working closely with the other strands, like the newly created strand, which is the school infrastructure and facilities strand, to close the remaining gaps as to the provision of school buildings or classrooms, provision of furnitures. And also with the other strand, like the human resource and organizational development for the provision of additional teachers. We will also establish fully functional library hubs, because by putting up library hubs, we will make available learning materials to support the agenda of making every child functionally literate. We are working closely with the administration strand for our classrooms to be provided with e-classroom package to optimize the use of technology, both for offline and online. And we shall launch our national education portal, which will provide a dynamic one-stop shop platform that will be made available to our teachers, learners, and parents. For the next agendum, we always remind ourselves that we are here for our learners, and so we have to give the best for our learners, no matter who they are and no matter where they come from. And so we provide inclusion programs for our learners with various needs. And of course, we acknowledge or we recognize that we have to give our utmost support to our teachers, because our teachers will always be there and will always be very helpful in the provision of quality basic education. So, of course, our secretary recognized that the challenges in the implementation of the Matatag agenda are vast or numerous, but she keeps on reminding us that we Filipinos are resilient. So together, she said during the launching of the Matatag agenda that we need to rally together for an improved learning system. For together, we can produce every Filipino child provided with a quality basic education. And for this, we need to do this, everything, all the agenda under our Matatag education agenda are all for our children, para sa isang matatag na bayan, para sa ating mahal na Pilipinas. And on that note, I thank you once again for the opportunity to be here and share our education Matatag agenda. We look forward to our partnership with all of you and to hear ideas and feedback in how we can work together to keep improving our education system. Thank you. Maraming salamat at mabuhay po tayong lahat.
Thank you very much, ASEC Torio. Wow. It's really great to learn about the revision of the curriculum to make it more relevant under the flagship theme of resiliency. It's really important, and this hopefully will accelerate the delivery of quality basic education in the Philippines, providing more facilities, infrastructure, learners' well-being, and supporting teachers so that they can hone their potentials and deliver what they're supposed to do. Thank you very much, Philippines. And we would now like to learn about contextualizing the Transforming Education Summit. So there are a lot of agenda and action points delivered during the Transforming Education Summit in New York. And we would like to know how countries will translate this into their own system. Not the two examples are curriculum reform, but the next example is actually translating the bigger agenda in their own country in Nepal. So Nepal is highly committed to transforming education agenda, especially on the recovery and accelerated learning. And the plan was developed, including a comprehensive assessment of the learning loss. So I'm sure you're all excited to listen about the kind of adaptation or transformation that is happening in Nepal. And we are lucky to have with us Dr. Hari Prasad Lamsal, who is a Joint Secretary of the Ministry of Education, Science, and Technology of the Government of Nepal. Sir, Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Thank you, respected moderator and excellencies, distinguished delegates from member countries and organizations, ladies and gentlemen. Me, Hari Lamsal from Nepal. I'm going to share how we contextualize the transform. First of all, sorry, all of a sudden I was muted. I would like to acknowledge the UNESCO to include Nepal as a speaker in this high-level August gathering. And I would also like to thank Margareta, who was here, and we discussed a lot about the follow-up actions, what we have made after the this TES 2022. So Nepal has, next slide, please. Nepal has developed this recovery and accelerated learning real plan, and which is in practice. And during the development, we were together with the local education development groups, teachers, development partners, civil society organizations. Then we have provided some additional budgets in addition to the ongoing budget to the local government to undertake the learning recovery activities for the current fiscal year as well as the upcoming next fiscal year. Then we also have developed this operational guideline, which is a sort of roadmap that includes the activities, costs, and who is responsible to implement the activities and how we can move ahead. This is basically, this roadmap guideline is for 2 years, and guideline includes that there is a provision of mobilizing the teachers and local governments and non-governmental organizations and civil society organizations. Then in the due course of time, we have developed some tools and diagnostic tools where the teacher can use in order to assess the students' learning, which was lost because of the COVID and other cases. And all these things are integrated into the National Education Sector Plan, and by aligning it with the Sustainable Development Goals. Next slide, please. Then that guideline and real plan that includes the teacher training manual and which will be rolled out throughout the country. And then we also have developed some master trainers, and we can support to the trainers at the local level, at the provincial level. And then similarly, we have developed, as I already shared, that diagnostic tool for school teachers to assess learning and identify the gap. And then alternative teaching tools were also developed. And then rollout of the teacher training and support mechanism, and then providing additional budget to the schools to carry out all these activities. Next one, please. The most important thing what we realize is the rationalization of resources in order to roll out all these activities at the local level, and we need to provide the additional budget to the local government and to the school, and we need to provide training to the school teachers. Then as part of the Constitution of Nepal, school education is the mandate of the local government. So we are using two approaches, supporting teachers as well as the local governments. Then when we support the teachers, this learning loss analysis will be carried out. Then we have new census data currently, and the thematic analysis is going on, and that provides the additional information which will be incorporated into the upcoming national plan, annual plan, and programs. Then we have also equity index, which is being updated in line with the new census data. And we also have developed the educational development index, which also provides the status of the local government, and that allow us to reprioritize the activities and to reallocate the budget to the local government. Next one, please. Then the most important thing what we realized is, this ownership among the key stakeholders, including the local levels. We have a very good platform at the national level, and we want to accelerate, expand that practices into the local government. And we have the local government's representative, their national federation, their organizations. We have MOU to carry out the, this real plan, to implement the real plan, and to implement the new school sector education plan, and to implement the SDGs in a more coordinated way. And then we also included the local government representative into the high-level steering and advisory committee. Then we also have a joint monitoring and review mechanism, and we also have carried out the extensive consultation, and we have also planned to carry out the consultation in the days to come by mobilizing the local education group at the local level. All these platforms will help to develop the ownership towards the this learning plan, real plan, and the activities which are prioritized after the TES 2022. All these are the progresses what we have done so far till now. Next slide, please. I would like to highlight some of the things, what we have planned for the future. Then future means from tomorrow onward. This institutional capacity support to the development, support to the local government, and with the highest disparities and learning loss, to contextualize the SESP, means school education sector plan strategies and learning recovery plan. We have a very good platform with the development partners, although we do have challenges of funding, we have challenges of reaching to the local level from the center, but we have a plan to develop their capacity. And another important thing is that how can we develop the capacity of provide the training to the teachers, and where they will be able to carry out the diagnostic tool to assess the student learning and to measure the student learning loss, then carry out the subsequent activities. Then we have also planned to use this equity index that provides very good information by the local level. We have 753 local levels, and that equity index provides the which local level is where in terms of enrollment, goals, disadvantaged students from disadvantaged communities. And we also, as I already mentioned, that we have also developed this education development index that will also provide the best information in the days to come, which will be used for the resource allocation to provide the support to the local government. The next one, please. Then we have the real plan, which are is you know that we have this SDG midterm review, which will be aligned with the real plan, and we have a new school education sector plan. I mean, all these are embedded together. One plan can fit to all. I mean, synergy is being created there. Then in the year-wise, what we will do, integration of successful recovery strategies into the regular planning. I mean, we have piloting, then that will be expanded into, included into regular plan, then that can be further expanded to the other areas. Then undertaking of SDG midterm review and collaboration with the local government association for joint monitoring of progress against SESP. This means school education sector plan and SDG 4 indicator. I mean, we have these some progresses what we have made. Still, we have a challenges of working together, developing, creating a synergy among the different actors, and then having adequate financing capacity of the local government, coordination. All these are challenges as well. And we also need to take care of all these things, to move ahead and to carry out the priorities which were set in TES 2022. And our plan and policies are in line with that TES 2022 priorities. But now the challenge is that how can we move ahead? And this is my presentation. And thank you very much for providing this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Wow, there's another way of contextualizing transforming education agenda by zeroing in on plan. And take note, they have decentralized education, and many countries have done this during the pandemic, that you cannot address all, and they have tasked the local government units to address the pressing challenges. And that works, and synergizing the efforts from the federal government to the local levels. We also have learned from him that monitoring is important, like reaching data of 173 local levels and trying to find out what the gaps are in each of them. And I think this is a very good model for us in the region. Thank you so much, sir. And another question in mind on transforming education agenda and implementation is actually financing. And today we're very lucky because we have Dr. Cryos Patrawart from the Equitable Education Fund of Thailand. As we know, this is also another good practice, another good model on financing of education. He will talk about equitable and innovative funding model, in Thailand, and maybe sharing further. This was established under the Equitable Education Act 2018, and we are closely collaborating on many things to expand learning access, improve learning outcomes, provide alternative education for out-of-school youth and children, and bring the system-level change. I'm sure you would like to see and hear from our rock star of EEF. Dr. Cryos, the floor is yours.
Thank you, moderator. Excellencies, distinguished participants, colleagues, friends of SDG, I would like to offer my sincere gratitude to the UNESCO to invite us to join again. I think we have been meeting every month since the pre-test and APFSD before that too. And until now, we are follow up on tests. So we are very happy to be part of this continuing effort to improve the life and quality of learning for every child in Thailand and beyond. I would like to offer the experience of Thailand, what we are trying to do in transforming education system, focusing on financing at the moment. If I can move to the next slide, please. In Thailand, we are still quite a young organization. We only set up a few years ago. If you would like to know more about EEF, you can scan the QR code on this slide to learn more about EEF and how we as a public fund focusing exclusively on equitable education costs, and we are directly supervised by the Prime Minister, not part of any ministry. How can this independent model of funding can transform education system focusing on equitable education goals? And today I would like to share about the recent success, but I would like to show you the big picture of Thailand about the population in the education system. In the compulsory education age group from 3 to 14, we have about 9 million of children in the education system. About 2.5 of them, their family earn less than poverty line. So in that blanket, we also conduct a poverty screening to identify the poor and extremely poor family who, for extremely poor, the orange shaded area, they earn less than 1,000 baht per month per person, which is below than the extreme poverty line in the global level. So how can we increase the finance, increase the resource and attention to this targeted population who are at the most risk situation to drop out from school system, particularly during COVID-19. So what we have done in Thailand, we have identified the gaps. Everybody, I think, in this room and in the Zoom have seen this picture before. When we talked about equity, some of us might think that everybody should get the same amount of resource. That's an input-based understanding of equality. But at EEF and in Thailand, we try to understand equity in the outcome-based approach, whereby each single child, no matter where they born, how much they earn in their family, we should be able to identify the gaps of input that can push them through the education system to help them achieve whatever goal, whatever potential they have, they can achieve at the most potential of their education capacity. So if we can identify the gaps and if we can tell the government that how much money, how much resource, how many teachers, how other things that we need for equitable education goals, we can transform education system in that philosophical way. But look at the aspect of reality. Before we setting up EEF in Thailand, the amount of budget set aside for the extreme poor student is only 2.5 billion baht. That in 2011. And since 2011 until 2023, that amount of subsidies or allowance for the poorest children in the education system remain the same. Because we cannot distinguish at that time who is the poor, who is the extreme poor, and how much exactly the financial gap we should be able to identify and finance them, including the teacher and other resource to the school. But once we set up Equitable Education Fund and we conduct a number of research, including proxy mean tests and a number of application and technology, education technology to empower teachers to identify this gap, we receive more budgets. Right from 2019, when the COVID-19 is hitting our country, we receive doubles in terms of financing resource to education system and then triple in the subsequent year. And now not only the green area is the public fund that has been added to the system, we have donation from private sector, 200 million baht last year, exclusively from private sector, because we can offer them 2 times tax exemption based on EEF Act. So we have more resource, not only from government sector, but also from private sector. And this is how we transform education system in financing way. And I would like to share you the very good news from our cabinet. Just have the meeting before they dissolve the parliament on the 14th of March. They increased another 40% of per head subsidy for the extremely poor student from 3,000 baht per year to 4,200 baht per year. So that's the news that we couldn't share yet because they just dissolved the parliament due to political reasons. So we just keep it and share with you here. But this 40% increase just highlight that the more we have better data, the more we have better participation of teacher and school, we can actually finance the most vulnerable and the most needed population in the country. But by the way, we didn't propose this to 4,000. We proposed something much higher than this. But everybody in this room know, like me, when you defend the budget, you not always get what you ask for. But 40% is something that we are currently happy for now. But in the next 3 years, I will going to do this thing again. And the main reason behind this, I would like to thank all 6 education administrators, including my colleagues here, Dr. T from OBEC. He is also part of the main partner of EEF that we try to work closely with them with a number of MOU, and we also developing the smartphone application that 400,000 teachers across country can conduct home visit without any single piece of paper. They can use smartphone to take the photo, collect GIS coordination, and also conduct poverty screening using proxy mean test. With that kind of data, we not only track them within compulsory education system, we track them until they enter higher education. We also have the MOU with the higher education ministry to make sure that university and higher education ministry can also provide scholarship for them. Back to from the beginning of my speech, that we would like to make sure that whoever have high potential to enter higher education, they should be able to receive exactly amount of funding that they needed, and it might not need to come from EEF. It can come from higher education institute, university. We just need to have that identification number and the profile that we track them from their kindergarten through university, and that's what we call education security system. That is something that we try to establish in Thailand. And with COVID-19, they just increased the amount of population in our target group. A number of children fall into poverty line and limited fiscal space in the near future. The government need to borrow money and need to find extra resource for any other thing apart from education. So it come to my final point on this presentation is the innovative financing is something also crucial, not only with equity-based budget. Equity-based budget is for within resource within the government subject. What we need innovative financing from the private sector. We have the company in real estate and in energy sector in Thailand issue corporate bond. The corporate bond that people in Thailand can invest, they can receive interest for 3%, and they donate those amount of money to EEF, and we bring that 100 million corporate bond to invest in education in provincial level. And that is another way. We don't need to go through social impact bond, which is very complicated. We just take corporate bond in this country to make to mobilize the extra resource from the private sector, and that is something that we are trying to do. As a fund, we don't only focus on the money, we focus on knowledge, we focus on data, we focus on research and partnership. That can be multiplier to the fund that we have and we going to have in the future. So with this multiplier impact framework is something EF try to focus on in the future, and that's how we are part of catalyzing transformation of education in this country, and we hope to share this experience to other partners. If you need more, please do contact us, and thanks again to inviting us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Krios, the Managing Director of Equitable Education Fund of Thailand. It's always amazing Thailand, right? So, having this kind of innovation in financing and using data sets to improve the system. equity, and access, even scholarship up to higher education. So data is really powerful in everything. And well, it's not just not having money here or having money there, but using data to tell us where we should put the money. It's the most marginalized, the most disadvantaged, it's the most needy. So I think that is a very good model for the Asia Pacific countries. And I would like to thank Dr. Crayos for a very good sharing. We hope we can have a copy of your presentation. I'm sure all those attending the session would be interested to study carefully this kind of innovation. And we still have few minutes left, and I have seen 2 questions here. I hope our minister from Bangladesh is still here.
Yes, yes,
Oh,
I am.
ma'am, thank you very much. So I have a question for you. It's in the chat room, but this is the question for Bangladesh. Bringing transformation on teaching pedagogy needs to look into what is the seed level problem we are trying to solve. I would like to know what are the top 3 issues we are currently working on.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for the question. In our traditional system, it was very teacher-centered and passive rote learning, very heavily exam-oriented. Questioning was not encouraged at all. There was no joy in learning, and it was very competitive and always confined within the 4 walls of the classroom. But now it's learner-centered. There is experiential learning or learning by doing. There is formative assessment. There will be some summative assessment as well, but more formative assessment. It's more focused on joyful learning, and questioning is encouraged. More collaborative process of learning, and learning anywhere, anytime. Very flexible kind of learning, and there is a lot of community engagement. And through this process, our learners will also acquire soft skills, skills of communication, critical thinking, problem solving, and collaboration, and also learn the values of integrity, humanity, empathy, tolerance, and respect for diversity. So these are the approaches now.
Thank you very much, Minister. And I hope the one who sent the question is happy. So thank you so much. Another question here is for the Philippines. So as we know, most countries have developed the TES National Commitment, and it's available. You can take a look in the website of UNESCO Bangkok. And we have heard about the Matatag agenda. The question here is, has there been mechanism put in place to ensure that the voices of the young people are heard in designing this Matatag agenda? Ma'am, Asek, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much, Ma'am, and thank you for that question. At the outset, I would like to contextualize the question by inviting you on the, or apprising you on the various governance levels of the Department of Education. Earlier, I mentioned about the central office. That's one governance level. Down to central office, we have other governance levels, which include the regional offices, the schools division offices, and our schools and learning centers. And these governance levels have delineated functions. As to the central office where I am based, the central office is mandated to formulate policies. And these policies are being implemented by our regional offices, contextualized by regional offices, and being implemented by our schools division offices and our schools where we have our learners. I'm telling this because when I say central office, we do not have direct contact with our learners, but as I would like to reiterate what I had mentioned earlier, that we at the Department of Education exist or is here because of our learners. So we try our all efforts for us to listen to the voice of our learners. And so for relevant programs, in the conceptualization of relevant programs in the central office, as well as in our schools and our learning centers, we have to see to it that our learners are properly involved. At the central office, we have this strand, the operations strand, which is directly coordinating with our schools, and that this strand is has an upcoming convergence or leadership summit involving our learners. And that is an opportunity for us to listen to the voices of our learners, including including this discussion on the Matatag education agenda. And also down at our schools, we have organized relevant organizations like our student government councils and other relevant organizations wherein we hear the voices of our learners and take efforts to include them in the discussion of policies as well as implementations of relevant programs in our education system. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, ASEC Torio. We don't have a lot of time, but I still have a lot of questions, and I will take the last one for Dr. Crayos. And the question is that, okay, both questions are very good. So, okay, the EEF Act is very impressive. It's a good initiative indeed, and between 3 to 17 years of age bracket of students, the Act supports. Which age group is a priority level, and what is the rationale behind it? Dr. Crayos?
So it's basically the compulsory school age group is the priority. We would like to incentivize the early childhood age group to come to the compulsory age group as soon as possible and maintain them not to drop out before time, and also send them to the higher education for anyone who have potential to. So that's our main focus, and that's for the first question.
Thank you very much. And the other question is about your secret on how to, entice the private sector in helping EEF. 1 minute.
Basically, the data and the accountability is the very crucial trust factors. If we can establish trust factor to the private sector, bring them to the area, how they see the data from their Excel spreadsheet and how they see the real life of children in the school, in the household, and how their money can make a real change. That can create a trust factor. And I have to say that we use the same thing with the government sector too. When we provide them good quality of data and accountability that all the money actually go through the children for sure, then we can receive more confidence in providing further additional resource to us and to the children.
Thank you very much. And one last question. I'm sorry, we have a question for Nepal. Sir, are you still with us?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I'm here.
What is the biggest challenge in contextualizing the transforming education agenda in your mind? That's, every day you want to do something, but this is one problem that you always encounter. What is that, sir?
I mean, the biggest problem is coordination among the different actors, in terms of in the constitution, the 3 tiers of government have different roles, and how can we create the synergy among them is the biggest one. The second one is financing, and then third one is working and developing a capacity of the teachers and local governments. I mean, they are at the front level to implement the activity. So if they don't have capacity, the national plan may not be, translated into the action. So these are the biggest 3 challenges, and we have due considerations of these challenges. Other things can do, but funding and financing is the, crux of all the things. Development partners' commitment is further going down. and Nepal's internal revenue resource mobilization. We are in the beginning phase of the federalism, and the running cost is too high. So it's very difficult to reallocate to provide more funding to education. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. So I'm sure audience here, you have time to think about questions, but unfortunately we don't have time left. And maybe later on you can ask our panelists on your questions, but I would like to thank all our panelists, indeed, the excellent speakers. Honorable Dr. Deepu Moni from Bangladesh, let's give a warm round of applause. To Assistant Secretary Almar Tuorio, please. Thank you, Philippines. To Dr. Hari Prasad Lamsal of Nepal, thank you so much for staying with us. And of course, the Managing Director of EEF, Dr. Krayos. Kapun ka. Thank you so much, and I would like to turn over to Ms. Margaret. Thank you very much.
So I would like to thank you, Dr. Ethel, for an excellent moderation. With that, we conclude part 1 of this event. Not on, I don't know. Is it on now? No. Somebody can turn on the mic. Yes. All right. So now with the mic, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Ethel, for this excellent moderation, and also say that now part 1 is concluded. And so we will turn to part 2 of the event. And I would now like to give the floor to Mrs. Mitsue Uemura, who is the Regional Education Advisor of UNICEF East Asia and Pacific Regional Office, who will moderate part 2. So, Mitsue, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Margaret. Good morning, everybody. Once again, my name is Mitsue. I'm the Regional Education Advisor of UNICEF East Asia and Pacific. So together with our dear sister agency, UNESCO, together with Dr. Ethel from CIMIO, but on behalf of Learning and Education 2013 Plus. This is a really a great coordinated effort because we saw that the test was successfully concluded last year. We also knew the number of countries in our region especially were already undertaking a lot of education reforms. We talked about and we saw in terms of the severity of the learning crisis. At the same time, we already knew. Pandemic, of course, exacerbated the challenges, and yet we are now coming out with lots of hopes because lots of initiatives are already ongoing in the countries. So we already saw a couple of countries, great experiences, very inspirational. Now let us turn to the next stage in terms of looking further in terms of the teaching and learning, curriculum pedagogy and an assessment. And I just said it, but as we all know, each of them, assessment, pedagogy, talking about the teachers, learning, it's actually a massive undertaking. And that's why many countries are not doing the piecemeal approach. They are actually covering the entire system, and that's what we call the transforming education. So I would like to invite first the Ministry of Education from Indonesia. Sorry, let me just do it. Yeah, so the first part, actually, we're going to look at the 3 main parts in this session. It's going to be very long, but please bear with me. And we would certainly allocate time for questions and answers and discussion towards the end of the session. So we would first invite Dr. Anindito Aditomo, the Deputy Minister for Education Standards, Curriculum and Assessment from the Ministry of Education, Culture, Research and Technology from Indonesia. As we know, Indonesia is the 4th biggest, largest country in terms of population. And in terms of the disparities, but also the diversity is really, really immense. I believe Indonesia is also one of the few countries that started already a few years ago, huge education reform, utilizing the technology as an enabler, but also in other elements. So let me invite Dr. Nino to present your experience. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Mitsue. A very good morning, everyone. My name is Anindito from the Ministry of Education, Culture, Research and Technology. It's a pleasure for me to be representing Indonesia to this special session I think this is a wonderful platform for us in education to learn from each other. Let me share with you our experiences in reforming the education system. In the past 3 years, Indonesia has embarked on one of the most radical reforms in our recent history. We call this reform Merdeka Belajar, or literally emancipated learning. With Merdeka Belajar, we aim to put in place a transformation that is systemic. Systemic in the sense that the transformation touches all key elements of the system, from curriculum, pedagogy, evaluation and quality assurance, teacher education and training, of course, to funding and infrastructure. But systemic also means that the changes are founded upon a comprehensive regulatory framework, and also, and perhaps more importantly, founded upon strong ownership from key stakeholders like teachers, principals, district officials, as well as students, parents, and the general public. So Merdeka Belajar for us is not simply a collection of programs. Much more than that, we aim to make Merdeka Belajar a social movement. So if you can move to the next slide. And the next slide. This is indeed an ambitious goal, especially considering we have only 5 years and we have more than 60 million students, 3 to 4 million teachers, depending how you count them, across 300 to 400,000 schools. But we are purposefully aiming high because we know that we cannot afford to be doing business as usual. The cost of doing business as usual is that far too many of our students finish school without mastering the most foundational competencies, such as literacy and numeracy, which will be a handicap for them for the rest of their lives. So before the pandemic, if we use international standards, such as defined by TISA, around 70% of our 15-year-olds are below the minimum standards in literacy and numeracy. And of course, this is simply unacceptable. Now, addressing this crisis in learning requires an overhaul of the existing system. Our system has been very, very successful in opening up access to schooling, but many of our students are in school without properly learning, and hence we need the Merdeka Belajar reform. And if you can move to the next slide, Merdeka Belajar starts with a formulation of what we want to achieve, which is that all schools in Indonesia become learning environments that nurture and empower students to become lifelong learners who are not only competent, but who also hold strong moral, ethical, social values based on our national ideology, Pancasila. So next, to achieve this vision, next again. To achieve this vision, we have introduced reforms in 4 key areas: curriculum and pedagogy, supporting teachers and teaching, opening up our higher education, and also using technology as a way to scale up and accelerate the transformation. Next, I will focus on 3 of these 4 areas. In the next slide, yes, this one. One of the first things we did in Indonesia was to get rid of high-stakes subject-based national exams. Instead, we now have a national assessment of all schools in Indonesia, which is more diagnostic and focuses on foundational competencies and social emotional skills, which are essential to become lifelong learners. But this is not an assessment for individual students. This is assessment of the schools and of the system, which is why we also measure teaching quality, school safety climate, social climate, as well as instructional leadership. And all of those results are then provided back to schools and districts to encourage and facilitate reflection and evidence-based planning. In the next slide, we have also reformed our curriculum. We now have a new curriculum Merdeka, emancipated curriculum, which dramatically reduces content volume in favor for deep learning. Teachers are given the authority to accelerate or decelerate the curriculum to match the students' abilities. So teaching at the right level is much more easy to be done using the new national curriculum. The Curriculum Merdeka also provides unprecedented opportunities for project-based learning on themes such as climate change, diversity, and entrepreneurship. So we have now 20 to 30% of the curricular time dedicated for project-based learning to develop socio-emotional skills. In the next slide, you can see that we also changed our university entrance exam so that they also measure reasoning, problem solving, and academic aptitude as opposed to subject-based knowledge. So consistent with the curriculum and consistent with the national exams. Collectively, this sends a very strong signal to the system that problem solving, critical thinking, that is what students can do with knowledge rather than what they know, should take center stage in teaching and learning. Next, with regards to teachers, we have developed a new master teacher program. This program has identified and trained more than 50,000 teachers to become change agents who are encouraged to take risks, innovate, and always put students first. Next, with regards to teacher education, we have also reformed pre-service teacher education curriculum, which now focuses much more on clinical practice instead of theory. For in-service teacher education, we have prioritized peer learning to build communities of practice within each schools and across schools and districts. And next, in terms of technology, we simply cannot do without technology if we want to scale up these programs. That is why in the past 2 years, we've been recruiting 400 software engineers, product managers, designers, and data scientists who left their technology companies to join our mission. This technology team is embedded into the ministry's main units, not simply as vendors, but as thought partners, participating in the product design from the ideation phase. Together with the technology team, we are not building products that we think are needed, but instead our philosophy of user-centric design forces us to listen to teachers, to principals, and to students, and to focus on what they need. Within this short time span, we have launched a number of applications that have been used by millions of teachers, principals, and district education officials across hundreds of thousands of schools. This includes an application that provides classroom assessment, teaching materials, and training modules which help teachers improve their teaching and implement the new Curriculum Merdeka. Next slide. We have also several applications that are designed to help principals manage the school budget more efficiently and more transparently. This improves accountability as well as freeing up time so that principals can attend to improving teaching and learning. In the next slide, there's another application which we call the Education Report, which provides schools and district governments with personalized reports of their national assessment results. So they can use data about quality of teaching and learning to make decisions and to plan their budget accordingly. Next slide. Next. So ladies and gentlemen, we actually have other reforms in higher education, financing, and higher education more specifically, which is similar to Thailand. We have managed to engage the private sector to make significant contributions. But in closing, I would just like to mention that our Merdeka Belajar has touched and challenged practically all aspects of the system, from early childhood to higher education. As you can imagine, with this kind of radical change, resistance from the status quo is to be expected. And indeed, getting buy-in, cultivating support and ownership from those representing the establishment is one of our main challenges. This political aspect of the reform is, in some respects, more difficult than any technical and practical problems that we encounter. And hence, our education reform requires strong political will and excellent public engagement and communication. In this respect, we are fortunate to have received a very strong mandate from the President Joko Widodo, to enact radical changes. And we are fortunate to have a minister who is young, creative, and has the courage and experience to enact such changes. And with that, I give the time back to Mitsui. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much. I think everybody in this floor, but also participants online, wish that we actually have more time, because I think you said this has been a social movement. It actually goes even beyond, much beyond in terms of education, and also the future aspiration is certainly it's really future, present, but also future of the generation of the country. I think you talked about also the ownership of the key stakeholders, not just looking within the education sector, but really beyond. I think it's really important that in order to really undertake the reform in those 4 key areas. But we also heard that you have made very hard decisions, sometimes abolishing a certain high-stake assessment for once, but also the reducing the curriculum contents. So I think we look forward to learning more from you in terms of your experience and working together. So thank you very much. So now let me move on to the next speaker, Dr. Bo Chankolika from Cambodia. So Cambodia is actually, it's one of the first countries worldwide who made a commitment, endorsed a commitment in terms of call to action on foundational learning. Even before the TES, of course, the country and then also the Ministry of Education, Youth and Sports was already undertaking the education reform, particularly focusing on the foundational learning. So I would like to invite Dr. Bo to make a presentation. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, moderator, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen. So very good morning. I would like to thank for inviting me as the representative of the Ministry of Education, Youth and Sport of the Kingdom of Cambodia to be a panel member in this important event. So in my presentation, I would like to highlight the action to promote foundational literacy and numeracy adopted by the Cambodian government and the Ministry of Education, Youth and Sport to concretize her commitment on transforming education system, that we submit our national commitment to the United Nations in September 2022. So the action, I will frame our action into 5 priority. One is the policy vision that we have on foundational learning based on the assessment. And the second is on the health and nutrition. And the third is on teacher preparation and support. The 4 on teaching and learning resources. And the last is on learning assessment. Next, go to the next slide, please. Yes, so these are the 5 areas that I would like to frame in terms of the action that we are putting in place to promote foundational literacy and numeracy. So for the policy option, policy vision, we develop the policy based on the assessment that we conduct nationally. So as you may know that based on our grade 3 national assessment result, just only around 20% of grade 3 students almost 27% of grade 3 students will not be able to produce any word during a dictation test. And also we joined the PISA the assessment, and we found out that only 10% of Cambodian students at the age of 15 years old perform well in reading, mathematics, and science, while their counterpart could not reach the basic level of proficiency in all the 3 domains. And recently, based on the CPLM result, on average, grade 5 students in Cambodia score 290 in reading and 285 in writing and 289 in mathematics. And this result placed the average performance of Cambodian grade 5 students in band 4 of reading, in band 1 and below of writing, and band 4 of mathematics. So this is we are in our student perform lower than other country that joined the CPLM results. And for reading, only 76% of grade 5 students in Cambodia that have met the minimum proficiency level subjected by SDG 4 for the end of lower primary, and only about 11% of them have met minimum proficiency level for the end of primary as setting in the SDG 4. And for mathematics, about 64% of grade 5 students in Cambodia have met the minimum proficiency level for the end of lower primary, and only about 90% of them have met the minimum proficiency level for the end of primary as setting in the goal of SDG 4. So based on this assessment result nationally, globally, and regionally, we have discussed, and it is time that we have to transform our education system. And our priority is to focus on the foundational learning. So that is why in our education strategic plan, we give priority to this, to the improvement quality of learning outcome through improving foundational learning, focusing on literacy and numeracy. And also recently we just conduct the education strategic plan midterm review, which is also we articulate this foundational learning as our priority. And we also translate this policy into national strategy of early grade reading and mathematics that we will run by the national budget, also run by some DP budget, like we give some the support from a global education partnership. So next slide, please. Yeah, go to the next slide. To the policy vision. Yes. So to improve foundational learning, we also focus on early childhood and education, because we believe that the learning at the grade 1, grade 2, or grade 3 level, it depends on the learning that the children achieve at early childhood as well. That is why our national policy on early childhood care and education adopt holistic approach of early childhood education, focus on 5 key areas: good health, adequate nutrition, responsive care given, safety and security, and opportunity for early learning. So based on this, we have putting a lot of strategy to improve the quality of community preschool. We implemented multilingual education program, inclusive education program. We also promote parent education linked to community preschool, provide capacity building program to preschool principal and teachers as well. As you may know, healthy and well-nourished school children learn better and have a greater opportunity to thrive. That is why our priority is also to ensure the food safety and security. We also implement school meal program with the World Food Program, and we implement the homegrown school feeding program and provide scholarship to poor children. So the school meal program are targeted to the poor children or the children in disadvantaged community. Community play a very important role in deliver the school feeding program and to ensure the effectiveness. So in Cambodia, usually parents are involved in food preparation and cooking. And also in terms of teacher preparation and support, we provide the training to the national trainer. We provide the training of early grade mathematics and early grade reading to the teachers. We provide mentoring program to teachers to implement the early grade reading and mathematics. We also provide the capacity building to the ministry official to monitor the program. And we also try to provide the capacity building, institutional capacity building, in individual capacity building to roll out the teaching and learning, early grade learning and teaching result package to the nation. Well, so there are some of the issue that we need to address for the next action, which include we will, because we are now in the process to develop the new education strategy plan 24-28. So the foundational learning will be one of the main key policy in the new document. We also now conducting the midterm review of SDG 4, where we will focus on improving foundational learning. And under the GPE5 grant, improve learning, improve early grade learning and reading and mathematics also are the key program in that. We will continue to strengthening the school-based assessment and classroom-based assessment, because so far we focus more on large-scale assessment, but we have seen that school-based assessment and classroom assessment are very important. We will focus more on the intervention to address the specific need of disadvantaged children, because based on the data that we have, the disadvantaged children continue to have the lower learning performance in comparing to the children in urban area. We will focus more on school-based management. We also will expand the early grade learning literacy and numeracy to all schools in the country, because so far the early grade learning package and early grade in terms of reading and mathematics still not yet fully implement to all schools in the country. So for the next action, we will scale up to this package, the implementation of this package to all schools in the country. We will focus more on teacher development reform, and we will also focus on the digital education, where we will develop the teacher capacity on conducting effective distance learning, and also to produce more digital learning platform and resources. And due to the time, thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk in this event. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chankulika, really going into the foundational learning, literacy and numeracy, and then highlighting your experience. But also, she emphasized the importance of the data, the learning outcomes. Of course, Cambodia is participating in the international, but also the regional assessment, CPLM, as well as right after the pandemic, Cambodia is one of the few countries that were really quick enough to do this, the national assessment. So I think it's really a big, the important element. You also touched upon the importance of focusing and investing in young children, starting off with early childhood development. And that really, we all know that it really lays the solid, strong foundation for every child, especially the most disadvantaged, but also the importance of looking at health, nutrition, protection, well-being, safety. It comes all together. It needs to come all together. You also touched upon the Cambodia's really focus in terms of trying to meet the specific needs of different disadvantaged groups of the children. You talked specifically about the language issue, and it's really, really a big congratulations. It's really about transforming the systems in order to really cater the specific needs of the most disadvantaged children. But also you are really taking the great opportunities doing the midterm review, but also the new sector plan development, also trying to access the global education funding. So once again, congratulations. I think there's a lot that we wanted to continue learning from Cambodia. So once again, thank you very much. So now, let me now kind of change a little bit of a gear and let us turn it to another country, but still in our region, which is, of course, the Republic of Korea. So I would like to invite Dr. Jong Won-seo, Director, Office of Planning and Coordination, Korea Education Research Information Service, CARIS. I believe CARIS has been already supporting some countries in this region, but also other regions. So Korea, we would certainly look up to Dr. Jong-won to really learn from the Korean experience, but I know that we can also learn from you in terms of your CARIS experience and support to other countries. But let me be a little bit disciplined here and really listen to your experience in terms of the digital-driven education reform plan and then how that is going. Doctor, over to you. Thank you.
Well, thank you for kind introduction. Good morning, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin by saying thank you, UNESCO and UNICEF, for organizing this timely international dialogue. My name is Jong Won-seo. I'm a Director of Planning and Coordination Office at CARIS. CARIS stands for Korea Education and Research Information Service, and funded by Korean Ministry of Education. CARIS is one of the national educational agency and specialize in using information communication technologies. Today, I'm going to briefly overview and share you with one of the most recent policy development implemented by Korean Ministry of Education, known as digital transformation of education. Let me briefly overview for the background of this new plan. This plan is a bold and very ambitious plan, and just announced in last February. First thing is we are experiencing the rapid development and expansion of AI. One of the examples we all know is the ChatGPT. And we come up with this serious question, how we can teach our children to make a meaningful question to AI, and how our children can analyze these AI-provided answers, so that this AI issue brought the fundamental changes in educational content and also pedagogical innovation. A second issue was this government tried to strengthening the character, creativity, critical thinking, multidisciplinary competencies. These critical thinking issues are all included in every country's policy papers and policy plans. But now it's time for us to really make real happen in reality. And third background would be the nurturing talent of each student. And this AI technology would enable all children navigate their learning at their own pace. And finally, the ministry consider the importance of teaching and learning data. So one of this plan is about collecting and analyzing teaching and learning data for personalized learning. Next slide, please. This ministry come up with the 5 main strategy. First strategy is about back to the fundamentals with education for all, and no one left behind through this personalized learning for each student. And we see paradigm shift of learning. Previous and ongoing learning is about from concept-based knowledge, but we have to transit to learning based on creativity, character building, and critical thinking skills. And the third strategy is, I think, the most important strategy is that the transforming the teacher's role the previous teacher's role is only teaching, focusing on teaching, but to the role of learning designer, coach, and facilitator. Next one is building educational technology ecosystem. This is government cannot do this everything by the government or public sector. So the government is trying to facilitate a public and private partnership with industry, edutech industry. Final thing is that the Korean Ministry of Education established a new bureau called Digital Transformation of Education. This is one of the heart within the Ministry of Education, and they are a main driving force for digital transformation of education. Next slide, please. So this new plan has 5 main policy pillars. The first thing is the development of a digital textbook and courseware with AI-driven technologies for adaptive learning. The previous digital textbook has equipped with some of the multimedia functions, but it has not equipped with the AI technologies. So this AI-equipped technology, digital courseware will be the first policy pillar. Second thing is the professional development of teachers. And this government is organizing the leading teachers group to share their knowledge and their pedagogical experiences in national and regional level. And third pillar will be developing various teaching and learning model. Korea Education Research Institute, known as KEDI, is responsible for this developing various teaching and learning materials, teaching and learning models. And fourth area would be the operation of a digital model schools. This has to with a concerted effort with Ministry of Education and the regional offices of education. In Korea, there are 17 metropolitan and provincial offices of education. We have to come up with this strong cooperation. And finally, enhancing technology infrastructure. The most challenging area is that how we can store the teaching and learning data. We could use the cloud-based, but who's responsible for this data and how we can solve the issues, including private issues and some of the cyber ethics issues as well. Next slide, please. So now, some of the things we are working on right now, and we are also looking forward. AI-driven digital textbook and courseware to be phased in for math, English, and informatics starting from 2025. And we are forming our lead teacher group who has a solid foundation of technological and pedagogical competencies. This summer, we will have 400 teachers have a boot camp. And afterward, we will increase gradually with these numbers of teachers. And we are designating over 300 model schools for the digital transformation of education. And it will be operated by 7 regional offices of education. And finally, we are securing infrastructure, cloud infrastructure for real-time data collection. Next slide, please. So my final slides come up with some of the snapshot of a new classroom. And we are expecting students are self-paced and self-directed to achieve a higher competency level. With this AI-driven courseware will enable the adaptive and make a blended learning environment. And teachers take on differentiated roles as instructors, mentors, coaches, data analysts, and project managers. With these teachers' professional development programs, we expect the flourishing of a teachers' community of practices. Now in Korea, there are several hundred of teachers' community of practice by each grade level or subject level. This teachers' community of practice will be a main enabler of digital transformation of education. And finally, classes will become more diverse, interactive, and engage with the fluid learning, discussions, and project-based learning by utilizing these new AI technologies. And thank you very much for your attention. And I look forward for more engaged discussion after this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jong-won. I think it's really interesting to look at, of course, the AI, also your really comprehensive reform in terms of the looking at the ecosystem, the digital ecosystem overall. And also, I think we would be very curious and then interested to learn about your experience, especially on the public-private partnership. I think Korea, obviously, it's really influencing the culture, influencing the music industry, entertainment industry, but also especially when it comes to technology. And I'm sure you also still have some challenges, especially looking at the digital divide, even in the Republic of Korea. So I think it's something that we can certainly continue learning from your experience going forward. And as you said, yes, we will keep all the questions to the last part of the session in terms of a Q&A. So please allow me to move on to the next speaker. Now we have Mr. Xian Changwei, Secretary General, National Commission of the People's Republic of China for UNESCO. So the China has already integrated the promotion of the China's education, modernization, and poverty alleviation, and then ensuring and trying to really support the equal and inclusive education system, especially focusing on the smart education of China. So I would like to invite Mr. Xian Changwei. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yumura. Dear colleagues, first of all, I'd like to thank UNESCO Bangkok and UNICEF Bangkok to co-organize this event. It's my great pleasure to join in this special event and share TES National Follow-up Action with you all together. China attaches great importance to education. In the report to the 20th National Congress of CPC last year, President Xi Jinping pointed out that education, science, and technology, and human resources are the fundamental and strategic pillars for building a modern socialist country in all respects, and require to deepen the comprehensive reform of education and to establish an education system with high quality. In Education Modernization Outline of 2035, we set out the objectives of establishing a modern education system for lifelong learning. And we have established a mechanism to coordinating all the stakeholders and relative ministries and departments involved the education development and transformation. As a representative of this region in SDG 4 Education 2030 High-Level Steering Committee, China has proactively participated in the Transforming Education Summit and its preparation. China actively responds to global education transformation and implementing the national statement of commitment to TES. Next slide, please. What we do in the following ways. First, ensuring a learning environment that supports the development of all learners. In recent years, China make every effort try to realize the high-level balanced development of a compulsory education within county regions. We invest in and improve education environment of schools, especially in the rural area and the underdeveloped region. For example, to improve the building, the facilities, including the sanitary and the water facilities and teaching devices and the internet connection of rural schools. Now, in China, every school can be accessed to internet, and especially in the rural area, all of the schools can share the quality online education resources by internet. And in China, we provide a free and nutritious meal to children in rural area for the compulsory education students. Every year, more than 37 million students benefit with the program. Online education resources are massively applied to all students who share quality education resources at any time, anywhere. Next slide, please. The second, enabling teachers to transform themselves and become agents of change. In China, we have 215 normal universities and 510 other universities jointly offer bachelor and master program of teacher education and training to teachers at a different level, helping teachers to adopt modern new curricula and new pedagogies. Every 5 years, we provide a round of in-service training with cover all teachers, and we provide subsidy for teachers worked in rural area and particularly worked in remote area. We improve the evaluation system of teachers and inspire innovation of pedagogy. Next slide, please. Third, harnessing the digital revolution for the benefit of public education. President Xi Jinping highlights the importance of education digitalization for narrowing the digital gap and promoting education equity and quality. Since 2022, China has started implementing the National Education Digitalization Strategy Actions. Minister Huai Jinpeng put forward 3C concept. That means connection, content, and cooperation, which is similar to the TES 3C, connection, content, and capacity. We have 4 principles on implementing the action. One is the application. We think the application is the most strong driving power of the digitalization of education, and the service is the most important. And the platform should be simple and efficient. And the running of a platform should be, we should keep the security of the platform. We launched the online platform Smart Education of China last year, which integrated all the quality online education resources from national level, provincial level, city level, even the school level, from especially the top level school and the top level university. Leveraging digital technology for high quality development of basic education, higher education, TVET, employment, and entrepreneurship. Next slide, please. Through the Smart Education platform, we provide 44,000 courses for primary and secondary education. That means the compulsory education. And 6,628 courses for TVET, and 27,000 courses for higher education. So far, over 1.1 billion accumulated visitors from over 200 countries and regions use this platform. We hope the platform can facilitate teaching for all learners, and can facilitate the learning for all learners, can facilitate teaching for all teachers, especially the collaborative teaching, can facilitate the governance of different level government, and can facilitate the education study and continuously promoting education transformation and innovation, and promote the lifelong learning for all. This platform in the process of interactive upgrade. In fact, last year, we launched the 1.0 version of this platform. Now it's the 2.0 version. Next slide, please. Four. Okay. Investing more equitably and more efficiently in education. First, we establish a system of state education laws and regulations that ensure to fund education priorly. China has made clear the requirement for education investment, no one less and to increase. That is, to ensure that the government budgetary spending on education will remain no less than 4% of GDP. And the general public budget on education expenditure only increase year by year, and that the national general public budget on education expenditure average by the number of students in school only increase year by year. And the ratio of government spending on education to GDP have remained above 4% for more than 10 years. And secondly, we establish mechanism for use of funding toward different area and weak segments. Third, we establish financial assistance assessments for all students from a relatively poor family. In 2021, China funded 153 million students at all level education. And fourth, we improve the audit of education expenditure for better efficient using of the plan. Next slide, please. Promoting education reform comprehensively. China has integrated the 4 pillars of education into the core competencies of students. Use this framework, we promote comprehensive reform for education, which include the curriculum and the evaluation system and the teaching material and improving the curriculum and pedagogy, so on. So next slide, please. And this all some data of Chinese education development. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sin. Thank you very much for the presentation. It's really intriguing, especially considering that this is China, huge population, and yet focusing, of course, not only just the importance of the human resources, education, science, technology, and foundational elements for the modernizing China, but also the application of the online resources, investments to the rural education, and of course the smart education of China. Also very encouraging to hear in terms of the education financing and supporting not only the financial assistance for all the children, but also especially funding towards difficult areas. I think that's something that we certainly would like to maybe know a little bit more. So again, please keep your questions towards the end. So once again, thank you very much. Now let me move on to the... Let me move on now to the next presenter. Now we have Dr. Tira Pawankanan, the Deputy Secretary General, Office of the Basic Education Commission, Ministry of Education in Thailand. Probably almost all of us, we know that there are lots of education reforms that have been undertaking in Thailand, while it's improving the enrollment and the learning quality, but also there's a really specific emphasis looking at the out-of-school children, young people, adolescents, and it's really, once again, it's quite inspirational. But what we would like to hear from you today is really to see your experience in terms of providing inclusive, equitable access to all through the provision of open source online learning platforms right now. So floor is yours, Dr. Tira. Dr. T, over to you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wei. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Ministry of Education of Thailand, I would like to thank UNESCO and UNICEF for organizing this event and give me a chance to join today. This event will provide opportunities for countries in the regions to share their various visions and learn from best practice and innovations to transform education. Next slide, please. Ladies and gentlemen, Thailand has continuously placed high priority on education. We believe that education is a fundamental right for everyone and crucial for overall national development. This is why the roles of education have been emphasized on our key legislative documents, focusing on the advancement to three main aspects, namely learner, educator, and the education system through the use of technology and innovation. Last year, Mr. Prawit Wongsuwan, Deputy Prime Minister, joined the Transformation Education Summit and announced Thailand's national statement of commitment at the UN headquarters, New York. One of them is clearly spelled out on digital learning transformation. Thailand shall provide free, inclusive, and equitable access to online education through open source platform for all learners in Thailand. Last year also, ASEAN countries see concrete commitment on digital learning technology. On 25 October 2022, the Cabinet has approved for Ministry of Education to host the ASEAN Education Minister meeting of the 13, including ASEAN Declaration on Digital Transformation for ASEAN Education System in 2024 up to 2025, and the adoption of the ASEAN Declaration on Digital Transformation of Education System in ASEAN. It is well aligned with the national statement of commitments which I had mentioned. Next. Digital learning in Thailand has a long endeavor of the whole country's approach to ensure that digital development is also embedded in education ecology system. If I can give you an overview of education roadmap, which MOE has laid out and embarked to fulfill mission and vision articulate at the global and national level mentioned. You could see that on 2023, the modality is very much on our traditional way for looking at digital learning technology. We move toward more whole system standardization in 2024. In the following years, we would like to optimize the working process effectively, speedily, and safely in 2025. For the remaining of 2 years in our 5-year vision, we would also look how to continue develop the existing platform toward sustainable and innovative development in 2026. The last year, 2027 of this development circle, we definitely want to achieve a whole system service approach. So to ensure education hub of all learners in Thailand. I'm aware of UNICEF and UNESCO work in collaboration with the Bureau of ICT of MOE to ensure that the master ICT plan shall give a holistic blueprint of the vision as shared. Next. Being here with you today, I'm representing the Ministry of Education as well as the Office of the Basic Education Commission, or OBEC. I would like to give you a concrete example within my organization. The Ministry of Education by OBEC has developed an online learning platform, namely the OBEC Content Center, which was launched in September 2020. The platform provides 8 types of learning resources, which are electronic books, learning application, audio, photos, tests, templates, and multimedia. Teachers, students, educational personnel, parents, and all peoples can access the platform online and offline through a personal computer or mobile device anywhere and anytime. The platform is composed from 5 systems to ensure this quality and sustainability, namely authoring tools, content verification system, content management system, content provider system, and location content center. Since this platform has been used to support learning and teaching in schools, as well as lifelong learning for all, there are more than 90,000 electronic teaching materials uploaded to the platform, consisting of over 16,000 books, over 20,000 videos, over 2,000 photos, nearly 3,000 audio files, over 12,000 applications, over 37,000 tests, almost 2,000 templates, and over 3,000 multimedia applications. The number of people who have accessed the platform has reached almost 140,000 people. The large number of users are teachers, students, parents, and educational personnel. The platform is reviewed that discusses in the technological working group among MOE, UNICEF, UNESCO, and Kinan to contribute to the content curation with UNICEF in collaboration with the MOE by the Bureau of ICT. Next. In terms of teacher capacity building, one fine example is the Human Capital Excellence Management Center in jurisdiction of OBEC. The office is to strengthening teachers, educators, the capacity of educational personnel through online classroom training, focusing on foreign language skills, digital skills, and other relevant skills. In 2021, the Human Capital Excellence Management Center, together with Junior Achievement Thailand and Microsoft Thailand, co-organized training on strengthening digital skills to pave the way of further data scientists. Around 500 leading teachers from 243 schools participate in the training. These teachers were required to pass on their knowledge to their students and colleagues after the training. This training has now been successfully completed and approximately 20,000 people were engaged. In this project, more or last year, the center is collaborating with private companies and foundations to organize workshops on digital capacity building for teachers. In addition, there is also a bottom-up teacher network emerging called One Teacher Network. You can see on which the Bureau of ICT Education region in various parts of the country have been supporting. The case is documented in the Transformation Education Summit website as well. By the way, we have the program that we join EEF with Dr. Kayot to can help MOE prepare the learning style for every student in Thailand. Another one picture is very clear one is a digital transformation is MOE safety platform, which is support to student health system under the support by Ms. Trinut Thientong, Minister of Education. In closing, I would like to emphasize that education is fundamental to development and national growth. Therefore, we need to put strong effort into promoting digital transformation in education to improve learning for all and prepare learners to navigate a world characterized by fast evolving technology and change. It is necessary for government to cooperate with relevant sector to provide free, inclusive, and equitable access to online education through open source platform as well as a mainstream digital learning and ensure the safe use of digital technology and artificial intelligence. It ensured the national statement of commitment and declaration on digital transformation of education system in ASEAN. On behalf of Ministry of Education Thailand, I would like to again big thanks to UNESCO and UNICEF once again for organizing this meaningful event. We look forward to working with UNESCO, UNICEF, and member states to ensure quality education to provide appropriate skill to our young generation to transform education. So sorry that I'm gonna transfer to next event. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. T. Once again, really reminding us in terms of the value and then role of education when it comes to the nation building. But also congratulations in terms of the developing, but also already implementing the Ministry of Education's digital transformation roadmap. And also helping us to understand how the content center system actually works. And elaborating in terms of the partnership with the private companies. So once again, thank you very much, Dr. T, for sharing the Thailand experience. Now we have one more presentation to go, but before that, I just wanted to conclude this part of this session, especially because we have now looked at the various countries' experience in terms of the digital solution, which of course it's fundamental, it's important. I think we are still very at the beginning stage of this journey. I would like to invite you to really reflect in terms of how we are doing in terms of addressing the digital divide. Are we really reaching the most marginalized children that we knew that they would be the one to be affected, especially when we go big in terms of digital solution. And I think we already heard in the country presentations that many countries are making a conscious decision and making a conscious intervention, especially to really reach the most marginalized. But let us really keep thinking, are we doing the right thing, especially for supporting the most marginalized population when it comes to digital? It's not the enforcing the digital divide, but actually preventing, but also minimizing digital divide. So that's first one. Second one, as I said, it's really at the beginning stage in terms of the digital solution for education. I think at some point, not later, but we do need to really reflect. Is it really producing the type of change that we would like to see in terms of increasing the access, but also learning outcome, or maybe well-being, or maybe in terms of the happiness? Are the children being happy? Of course, with the computer games, probably children would say yes. But in terms of using the technology to really enhance learning, are we really seeing that type of change that we would like to see? Is it really producing the type of results that we would like to see, especially talking about the learning crisis? Is really digital solution is serving a solution to address this issue? Something really for us to think about. Okay, so let's now move on to the last presentation, which is, again, it's going to be a bit of a change of gear, but I think it's a topic that is really impacting, especially all the countries in our region, which is climate change. Many countries in the region, especially, are really spearheading in terms of the climate change agenda, looking at the education sector. But now we have the luxury to invite the person from Lao PDR, Mr. Sohab Kansway, the head of research and then executive division, executive secretary to the minister, permanent secretary office, Ministry of Education and Sport, Lao PDR. So I would like to now invite Mr. Sohab to share your experience in terms of how Lao PDR is incorporating climate resilient design measures to protect the school from the impact of disasters. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Dear Honorable Guest Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are in here or online, Sabaidi. First of all, I would like to thank UNESCO Asia Pacific Regional Bureau for Education, UNICEF East Asia and the Pacific Regional Office, and UNICEF Regional Office for South Asia for organizing such an important event in Bangkok. I'm delighted to be the representative of the Ministry of Education and Sport, Lao People Democratic Republic, to join this important event. My presentation will present the experience back in my home country, how it's incorporating climate resilient design measure to protect the school from impact of disaster. Next, from the first slide, you will see the map of our country surrounding by China in the north, Myanmar and Thailand in the west, Vietnam in the east, and Cambodia in the south. Ladies and gentlemen, disaster as the consequence of the climate change occur throughout the country, particularly the northern part of the country, where the cover around 80% of the mountainous area. The frequent disasters such as a flood, epidemic, landslide, storm and typhoon, drought, malnutrition, and earthquakes. This disaster directly affected school and teaching learning activity. The main objective of the ministry is to save life and prevent the injury of children and education personnel, and to plan for the educational continuity and minimize the educational disruption, and to protecting the investment in education, and to develop a culture of safety at its level. The ministry introduced the framework of The ministry introduced the framework of the education sector policy plan that align the two national, subnational, and the local disaster management plan. And thanks to the ASEAN School Safety Initiative program, the framework that we have been applying that include the 3 pillars. The first pillar, we have to make sure the school location and school facility are more resilient to such disaster, or how can we design the building in order to reduce the severity of the disaster. For example, the climate resilient design measure in early learning facilities such as drainage improvement for flood and control, rainwater harvesting and recycling in water scarce area. 3, plantation to protect the school area from erosion. The second pillar, we have to make sure that the school has a disaster management plan. And the last one is risk reduction and resilient education. This third pillar is so important. The ministry offered some intervention program and activities such as integration of the climate change content in supplementary learning material and provide the extracurricular in primary and secondary education. This activity, we work closely with the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment and other development partners. And we also apply the ASEAN School Safety Framework, like I just mentioned before, and the capacity building, the provincial, district, school principal, and school teacher on the education contingency plan. This activity we thank from the support of the Japanese government through the UNICEF country office back in my home country. And the fourth one, that we're utilizing the school safety assessment survey program as a digital tool set for planning and decision making of the school based. Next, please. Yes, the ownership of the school, the principal and teacher to survey the ownership of school principal and the teacher to do the survey their own school and entry on the information into the system. The system is after completion, the system will report and give the recommendation to the school principal, and the school principal are taking those recommendations and feedback into account as a process to the development of the school disaster management plan. Based on the experience of implementation and recent COVID-19, next slide, please. And recent COVID-19, the pandemic, we learned that we can summarize the key success as the following: enhancing the collaboration at the multi-level and multi-sector, as well as the intergovernmental cooperation. And the second thing is the strengthening the school community disaster management committee in terms of accessing reliable information, warning system, understanding the contingency management plan, and drill, and etc. The third one, the ownership and the accountability of the central and local government body is so important. In somehow we have to empower them on climate resilience and school safety. We are also thinking that, next please, the climate resilience and school safety that should take into account the new trait that suggests bullying in school and any kind of the violence, as well as the cyber crime that come along with the online. How can we ensure that the children spend almost their time to learning rather than the playing violent games? In sum, our objective is to how to answer very simple question when we ask our children, where is the safe place for you? And we would like to receive the answer is school. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I actually wanted to ask Deda to keep the last slide on because I think it's quite nice summary in terms of the way forward points. But once again, thank you so much sharing your practical experience. Really also focusing at the school level. Thank you very much. I think the points under the way forward is actually relevant to all of us. I think knowing that many countries in the region, including, of course, Laopedia, are very prone to the whole series of natural disasters. So I think we will certainly continue learning from you. So now I'd like to stop and then see whether there are any questions. Maybe we can start, maybe colleagues can help me to put up some questions that are posted online. But perhaps I can look to see whether any questions in the forum here in the room. Anybody? Yes, Roger. And please present yourself.
Yes, I'm Dr. Roger Chow Jr. I head the Education, Youth and Sports Division at the CN Secretariat. Actually, I have a lot of questions, but I'll limit it to two. First, we talk about digital transformation, and I'm seeing a lot of the different initiatives. But I seem to feel that there's a lack of comprehensiveness to address the core challenges of really transforming education across different pillars, including, not just enhancing capacity building for teachers, but how to enhance their own, socio-emotional aspects, including enhancing their career progression and enhancing their social life in community. Of course, they are a human being, they are part of the education system as well. A second thing there is more may not be better. If we have more digital content, there are challenges that you get information overload, content overload. And I think there's a need to revisit that we somehow limit too much information and too much content. Second thing, I think we can also consider the notion of co-creation, having students create content together with private sector, industry stakeholders, schools, and the ministries and international organizations would be helpful, contextualizing it and enhancing the cultural aspects. Last is we have to consider resiliency. When I talk about, when I hear the cases, we're talking about changing curriculum, looking at foundational learning. But there's a missing point. Foundational learning, as we see it today, is not foundational skills and competencies 5 years, 10 years from now. How do we ensure that the curriculum constantly changes as fast as it's necessary? So I'll stop there because I think there's so many questions, but thank you for all the cases and important points.
Thank you very much, Roger. I think it was a really great reflections. So let me just move on to maybe other participants who've got the hands up. So I think that let me just go to the lady first and then I'll come back to Tapan, right? So yes, please.
So thank you very much for all your presentation. We have seen so many great initiatives that has been taking place in many countries across the Asia and the Pacific. My name is Prim and I'm a youth representative from the APFSD Youth Forum from the region. And today, as a learner and as a youth who has been studying in education system and advocating for digitalization in education, I would like to mention some key aspects of the comments and questions. I think that there should be a concrete policy that should, when the presentation on Lao PDRs state that there are some challenges that students, adolescents, and youth are facing in terms of cybersecurity, in terms of scam, it states that there could be some government policies that we can implement it that to ensure that the security of all levels are being included and collaboration from every stakeholders to be there and ensure that together we protect the safety of the children, that protect the safety of the youth, protect the safety of the women and girls. And I feel like the quality education is where we teaching the right education to the right learners. Like you need to know what your learners are, and then actually when there are training programs for teacher, I want to see that there are call to action or there are progress after that when the teacher actually improving themselves and go back to know more about who is learning, what are the key messages that they need to take, and how we can assist the most best people with the best practice that they can get. And in terms of digitalization and information and AI innovation, we can leverage AI in all levels to benefit the humanity. And of course, like there are AI implementation, but these are not taking in place to the need of the right people. We need to include the most marginalized community in ourselves to have the better accessibility for everyone, for everywhere to benefit from STEM education, AI innovation, and careers for everyone to have an equitable, resilient, and sustainable future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Wonderful, another wonderful interventions and contribution. Thank you so much. Would you like to? Yes, please.
Thank you. I'm Tapan Mishra. I'm the UN Resident Coordinator in Mongolia. And Prim, thank you for that excellent intervention as a youth delegate looking at the future. I really appreciate it. It's excellent discussion around the follow-up for the tests. And I'm very happy that we're talking about transforming education and all the priorities. I'd like to highlight one issue for everybody's consideration, all the countries. You know, in our countries, the teaching profession is not the professional, not the career of choice, because it's not rewarding enough. People want to go to medicine, technology, business, and other things as priority. And when that doesn't happen, teaching happens as a second alternative. That's my assumption. I could be wrong, but this is what I've been seeing all throughout. Because the teaching profession is not attractive enough in terms of the compensation, the other incentives and stuff that put together. So I don't know, how are we looking at as governments to make the teaching profession the most rewarding and the career choice of preference, perhaps the first preference, because they are the people who are building the future. The teachers are the ones who are really helping the children to become the world-class citizens and the best professionals they can be. So what incentives can we put in place? What kind of career opportunities can we put in place for the teaching profession and make it very attractive so it becomes a profession of choice for everyone? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tapan. I think you are now inviting that maybe we need to think about another forum like this to really talk about how to incentivize the teachers. I would like to also mention that I think the many countries actually really are doing many things to really make the education profession very attractive, but also there are, of course, challenges. As we already saw, the financing is a really absolutely critical component. But again, I think it's a really great intervention comments. But let me just turn to the colleagues online, the participants. Maybe I believe there's one question. Could I ask colleagues to just to maybe state the questions, the comments that's been posted? Do we have? Yeah, please. Thank you. Also, there's a specific question to Dr. Jong-won, the Keris. How does your digital transformation address the marginalization, including the issues of access and inclusivity? Please.
Well, let me briefly respond to the question as well as some of the comments in the floor. The first question is about the for the issues for the people in the marginalized group. This is always one of the carrying top issues in the policy. First of all, beside of this digital transformational plan, we have another different types of initiative called the ICT support plan for people. This plan is specifically targeting for people in multinational families, people in some areas in the disadvantaged people. And some of the government support teaching learning services has a function of this. I don't know how to explain this, but this system is also specifically targeting for the people in disadvantaged people. And this digital transformation of education plan haven't yet, it just started from the last February. And I think we should take your advices as well. And you raise issues about the cybersecurity issues and the provision of the national curriculums and some of the issues of quality of content and the ownership of data. All these issues were taken, and I think we should very carefully taken for your advices, and we look forward to even more cooperation with the other countries as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions online? Question two to moderator. Okay. SDG 5 is essentially talks about eliminating disparities and to provide equal access to all groups. It does focuses on access only, and such we did not hear in today's presentations the government's plans on what they are doing to attain the stated target, and could not hear how do we intend to achieve quality education so that the population becomes functional and critical for achieving the sustainable development goals. Question is actually, is this targeted to probably me and also Dr. Eto, but I do believe that we've made a conscious attempt to also talk about the quality learning in our presentations. If there is a shortcoming, please do accept my apologies. But again, this is actually kind of a nice segue to really think about, we will continue this kind of learning and sharing, because there's no moment that we can stop and say, yes, we have done enough. No. This is going to continue. 2030 is really just around the corner, but as we know, this is a commitment that we already have had, right? So once again, let me just turn to the panelists here to see whether there's anybody who would like to actually respond to any of the interventions that were raised. I know that we are running out of time, but just wanted to make sure if there's any burning. Yes. There was somebody? Oh, there's somebody online.
Dr. Anindito raised his hand.
Yes, please, Nino.
Thank you, Mitsue. All very valuable questions and reflections. I just wanted to respond to the question on equity and technology. Yes, we realize very much that technology is a double-edged sword. Recent developments in AI, such as ChatGPT, can multiply productivity, but only if you know how to use it. So those who are literate enough to use it, who have the higher level skills of formulating questions and prompts, then your productivity can be multiplied using ChatGPT. But if you don't have these higher level skills, then ChatGPT is of little use. Hence, it simply increases the gap between those who are already literate and those who are left behind. But on the other hand, technology can also improve access to high quality learning materials, typically for those who usually have limited access. Let me give you two examples from Indonesia. First, we are using technology to deliver high quality training materials to teachers in remote areas. So before using technology, only teachers living in urban areas can have access to high quality training. But now teachers in remote areas can download, they can go to the nearest city and download the materials in their phones, or they can use content that we send using USBs and then link to their phones and learn from that material. The second example is for students. We have developed, we have written books for kids to to enrich the curriculum. These are not textbooks, but these are reading materials. Obviously, printing books and sending them to every school in Indonesia is very costly. We have done that in a limited scale, but we have also provided these books through digital platforms. And many schools in remote areas now use creative ways to facilitate students to read aloud and do literacy activities using these books. For example, they simply use projectors and project the PDF of books and then arrange reading aloud activities, which help stimulate students' early literacy using these materials. So yes, I think governments realize that technology is a double-edged sword. It can widen the gap, but I don't think the answer is not to use technology. It is how we use technology consciously to address that gap. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think it was a really nice summary. So with that, there was actually a question related to that, but focusing especially for the younger students. I don't know whether anybody would like to respond specifically on this, but do we feel that I think there's been already a sufficient, at least a reflection to address various questions on this topic? Let me just turn it to my panelists here. If not, I think now we've got a lot of homework to do, obviously, but I think that's the part of our lives that we cherish, really thinking about the learning, education learning for all the children, especially focusing on the most marginalized. So with that, let me thank all of you for participating in this session, but also the panelists in the conference room, but also the colleagues online. Thank you very much. And I would like to hand over the microphone to Margaret. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much again to the panel and to Mitsue for your excellent moderation. So before handing the floor to Peter, I'd like to make a little request to everyone. If the panelists and the participants could stay behind after we finish for 2 minutes, just so that we can take photos individually of the group, also of the participants. So that would be much appreciated. So now I'd like to give the floor to Peter de Vries, who is the Regional Education Advisor of UNICEF ROSA, meaning the Regional Office for South Asia. Peter, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. I think we're just under 3 hours, or just over 3 hours? Just 3 hours. And I think in those 3 hours, I think we've heard remarkable examples of what is happening in countries, in the main areas that we are discussing today. When we first heard the kind of global overview of some of the issues in terms of out-of-school children, learning outcomes, the need for investments and financing, the need for foundational literacy and numeracy, looking at climate change challenges. I think many of those areas have actually been addressed in this meeting with some very concrete examples of what is happening in countries. And we need to continue to learn from each other what works and what doesn't work. And we have to be frank and open about what doesn't work, because there's nothing worse than scaling something up that doesn't work. Just a few points I would like to highlight from those country-specific examples. First of all, knowing is half the battle. And I think we saw a few really good examples of an intensifying of measuring of learning outcomes. And I think partly that is also because of our experience with COVID that confirmed the kind of learning crisis that we are in, and that we need to know the situation in order to address it. We saw some really good examples from Bangladesh is actually undertaking an assessment survey. We saw examples from Nepal. We saw examples from Cambodia, my second home country. Really good to see that kind of measuring of learning outcomes is taking place that will help us to grow program better. Then also a focus on transforming through content and curriculum adaptation to the 21st century. We saw some really good examples from Indonesia. We saw from other countries as well. This whole issue around actually broadening the partnerships in education, moving it beyond the school, moving it beyond the Ministry of Education, and making it a society issue. I think that came out very clearly also from the Indonesia example. One thing I want to mention from the Philippines example is that it wasn't discussed in detail, but the focus on well-being is really critical. Psychosocial support and well-being for children as part of how the education system is really critical as well. Then in terms of the focus on FLN, Cambodia gave a really good example as one of the front runners in terms of addressing FLN, but also Cambodia touched on my personal priority areas, early childhood development, because that is where learning starts. And investing in the young years of a child is really making a huge impact in terms of the outcomes later on. Then I was flabbergasted in December when I actually came into contact with ChatGPT, and I was thinking, oh my God, what is this? What is happening? And I think it's great and fascinating to see that actually it's on the agenda for education, being very careful of what this means for us in terms of how it's being programmed and how indeed we're also looking at the digital divide that we have been discussing. Finally, climate change. I think it's critical. It was great to see the example from Laos in terms of risk mapping, and also to see how it can actually be integrated as part of the education sector, not only in the curriculum, but also in terms of the responses to the challenges. I was in Pakistan a few months ago. The floods in Pakistan have been like huge. There are millions of kids that are out of school, sitting in temporary learning centers. There are 20,000 schools that are completely damaged. We really have to take climate change very serious in education and as well as in society as a whole. There's so much. I think I will leave it like this. The last thing I would like to say is about we need to continue to learn from each other. And I think with this session, we already see there is so much happening. And we're really moving forward very much with the commitments that we made at TES. And I think that's really great to see. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Peter, for this very nice wrap-up. Now it's my great honor to give the floor to Ms. Deborah Comini, who is the Regional Director of the UNICEF East Asia and Pacific Office.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in presence online, including the youth representatives, thank you. Thank you to all presenters and all those involved in making great comments, asking questions. Thank you for sharing your country experiences. It was actually very encouraging to learn about all the steps taken in the right direction that are helping to improve children's learning and indeed transform education in the region. We've been talking about how COVID-19 disrupted the education sector as never before, and the learning crisis we are facing today is serious. However, we have heard today how many countries in the region have turned the challenge into opportunities to recover from the loss experienced during the pandemic and to go beyond that, to improve learning for all children, including those who have never been to school before, including those who had dropped out of school before the pandemic. Now, what has emerged from the pandemic as well, and this is an impression many of us share, is a new awareness of the importance of education among all sectors of society. When we lose something, we know we are missing something we probably didn't value as much before. So among all sectors of society and all levels of government, not just the ministries of education. And we had to use this momentum to keep putting energy, efforts, resources to improve foundational learning for all. If not now, then when? Supporting early learning, prioritizing education for disadvantaged children, including those already out of school, assessing learning outcomes, providing catch-up learning, supporting the overall well-being of all children. We have learned today about the deliberate, conscious use of technology to help deliver education, technology that helps teachers to improve their knowledge and skills, that connects schools for them to see their performance in real time, technology to respond to some of the specific needs of different groups of children, children with disability, ethnic minority children, linguistic minority children, children affected by emergencies. We've been discussing the equity dimension of technology and how we make sure we close gaps in access. We've also heard about the climate crisis, a giant crisis that we cannot ignore, also in our region, where several countries are already starting to take action to make their education systems more resilient to disasters, more resilient to the impact of climate change, and designed to help children acquire green skills to adapt to the long-term impact of climate change. We have now less than 7 years to 2030 to achieve SDG 4 on quality learning for all and to fulfill all children's right to education, to which all countries in this great region are committed. Do count on the support of UNICEF and UNESCO. We are committed with you to seeing all countries in Asia and Pacific succeed. Thank you for your participation today. I hope you are learning from each other, and I hope you are leaving this meeting with an uplifted spirit, with new knowledge, new connections, and a sense of optimism. Thank you, and have a good rest of the day. But if I may have your attention for a second, I would like a special applause for a special person in this room, Dr. Ethel. She's completing her mandate in CEMEO this week after having done so much for education in a big part of the region. Thank you, Dr. Ethel.
The meeting is closed. Photo session. Don't walk away, please.
May I request all the participants to proceed in front? Speakers first, sorry. May I request the speakers to stay in front. We'll have a group photo. Do you have him included? To all participants, so after the speakers taken their photo, please proceed in front. We'll take a group photo.